I've been playing D&D without minis for over 20 years, but I just got into them and I realized that they just fixed my biggest DMing problem. And no, this is not about tactical combat or anything like this. So, in today's video, I'm explaining to you what it is and showing you how using minis can actually help you become a better DM. And to do this, I need to start with a story. When I was around 9 years old, my best friend's dad introduced us to D&D. This guy had been playing for a long time, since the game first came out, and the thing I remember most about hanging out at his house and looking at his D&D stuff was his minis. He had a pretty cool collection, all painted by hand in one of those glass display cases. And I remember there was this one Bard mini. The paint job wasn't like a YouTube level paint job, you know, but it was clearly done by someone who cared a lot and had spent time with this little figure. My friend told me that it was Edariad, his dad's most played character, and he looked just so cool to me. I didn't really understand the game at that point. All the books in my friend's dad collection were in English, which I couldn't speak a word of. But as a kid, I remember being completely fascinated by this world on the table and how these little guys were apparently helping very serious adult people go on imaginary adventures together. The thought of someone caring enough about an imaginary world to make little pieces of it real made a strong impression on 9-year-old Edariad, and I didn't really know what to call it, but I've been thinking about this feeling a lot recently. Because I've been doing this, playing this game and many other TTRPG systems for a long time. Sometimes I still refer to 5e as the new edition. And I really do love it. I love building worlds, I love watching my players react to cool encounters or puzzles, and I do love making these videos for you guys. But when you do something for a long time, and especially now that this is actually my job, it can end up feeling like that. A job. A cool, fun job. Yes, this isn't lost on me, believe me, but still a job. And jobs have this weird way of sucking the essence out of things, and that's a big problem. For example, when I was a teen, I used to read D&D books for fun. We'd sit with my brother in the living room, take our pretty much exhaustive collection of D&D 3.5 supplements, and just flip through them. We'd look at the art, imagine encounters and cool combos. I just loved it. But at some point, I started only reading the monster manual when I needed something for the next session, and only looking at the magical objects when my players were really understuffed for their level. And part of it is just, you grew up, man, and you don't even live with your brother anymore. What are you even talking about? Sure, but it's not just that. I think that over the years, I started doing this thing kind of on autopilot, and I realized that I had not done anything D&D related just for fun in a little while. So I asked myself, could it be that at some point I stopped playing? By that, I mean, I know I didn't stop sitting at the table with my players, and they certainly didn't stop playing, showing up, rolling dice, making jokes, and forgetting the effect of their spells. But maybe I was just running the game instead of playing it, you know? Just sitting behind the screen and just trying to please my players more than I was trying to entertain myself. I still love to DM, like it's not a chore or anything, but along the way, my excitement started to only point at the table, the players, and the next session more and more. And I was slowly starting to realize it, and it made me kinda sad until a 3D printer showed up at my door. So, full disclaimer, the reason I got a 3D printer is because Elegoo, the company that makes those and the sponsor of today's video, sent me one. I didn't have some great plan to revolutionize my D&D experience, but they reached out. The box showed up and I thought, sure, let's see what this is all about. I wasn't expecting anything, really, except maybe a new wave of my Warhammer friends trying to recruit me into their cult. Nerds. But I figured I would print maybe a few goblins, put them on the table, see if my players liked them, maybe make a video about tactical play, and just move on, you know. I've been a theater of the mind DM my entire life, simply because since I started so young, I didn't have any money, and then I liked it, and just never changed. So I set up the printer, figured out the resin thing, made sure I was safe, cured my first test print, and I made this guy. And I looked at him, and I thought, okay, that's kinda cool, I guess. I could have stopped there. Then I started browsing. I got sucked into the incredibly deep and fun rabbit hole of all these websites where people put out these 3D printable files so others can buy them and print them at home. I found people made minis, terrain, creatures, props, and I felt like a kid in a candy shop. So I spent some time doing this, just looking around and losing myself in this new world, not really knowing where I would end up. And enjoying exactly that. And I noticed that something started happening that I wasn't expecting. I found this dude. Just look at him. Isn't he just so badass? It made me stop scrolling immediately. By the way, this is a model from Loot Studios. If you want to get it for yourself, I bought it with my own money and they don't even know I exist. So I'm just telling you this because I find it extremely cool and I thought you might want to know where I got it. Anyway, you ever got that feeling when you're just flipping through a D&D book and a random piece of art makes you stop? Like something about it just grabs you, you know? And the funny thing is, my brain didn't go to, wow, this would be a cool mini for my game straight away, which is what I thought would happen when I first decided to scroll, since I was in this whole next session mode I mentioned. But instead, I started to think about who this was. Like, what kind of creature looks like this? What's his deal? Is he guarding something? Or maybe he's just some pure force of destruction. Who made it? Why? Etc. I hadn't even printed it yet. I was just looking at the render on my screen, and I was already making it a part of my world. And I thought, man, it's kind of been a long time since I got excited about a monster. And that's when I remembered the story I told you at the start about my dad's friend and his collection. So yeah, I bought it. And I kept scrolling. And I kept feeling inspired. It was very different from browsing images on the internet, too. I mean, I do that as well, but then they kind of stay images. And it can help get an idea for description, etc. But knowing I could make these things real, hold them, and spend time looking at them, maybe at some point even paint them if I decide I really do hate money and want to stay broke my entire life. You know, just knowing all this made me care more and got me more excited. And sure, I was coming up with ideas that I could eventually use in my game doing so. That wasn't even really the point. I was just having fun. And printing minis takes time. You have to set up the print, which I did, wait a few hours, which I did, wash it, which I did, cure it, you get the point, and meanwhile, you get to actually think about it. How will the players react? Could this be some kind of new big bad? Should I go and buy an airbrush and 80 different kinds of paint straight away? You know, all these very important questions that actually make you more invested in your world. It almost felt as if I was skipping prep in a sense. I realized it kind of felt like playing, and I remembered that playing was very fun. There was just zero pressure involved, and I had no real deadline. If I messed up, no one would see it. I was just making something because I wanted to, and because it excited me. I was back in kid mode, alchemist mode, I don't know, call it however you want. The point is, I was thinking about my game because I wanted to, and not because I had to. And I think that specific state of mind produces very different results at the table. When you start planning an encounter or a description, and you're in that kind of mental state, you don't necessarily nail the mechanical side of things better, but it ends up having more texture, more emotional weight, because you as the DM put more of yourself in there. Sitting down with a blank Obsidian note or Google Doc and typing encounter 4 weird candle guy fight and then filling in a stat block feels way different than just standing in your little workshop, holding a physical thing that you made and playing with it in your hands. The time spent with the thing just fuels your excitement for the game. Okay, so by the way, I mentioned earlier that a sponsor sent me this printer, so I'm gonna actually talk about that for a second. Quick clarification, they didn't give me any cash for me to tell you about this, but they did send me the printer for free. The brand is Elegoo, and this specific model is the Saturn IV Ultra 16K. It's a resin printer, and it arrived with a wash and cure station that allows me to clean the minis and get them hard enough to use at the table. I went into this knowing nothing. I had never touched resin, I didn't even know what an STL file was, and I had absolutely no idea that I would have to cosplay as Walter White to stay safe using this stuff. But it was a lot more approachable than I expected. I watched a few YouTube tutorials, which helped a ton, and got very cool minis quite quickly. This specific model has a heated vat, which allows me to print in a non-heated safe space away from where my family actually lives. It's easy to operate and even has a built-in camera, so you can check your prints coming together. The printer in itself is sufficiently big for you to print pretty much anything you'd want to use in a D&D context. And if you want to make actual big things like an entire castle or maybe even cosplay props, you can find or make models in several parts and then just glue them together. If you're curious, I will leave an affiliate link in the description. So if you want to support the channel, you can get your own by clicking on it and I will make a small commission. But let's go back to that excitement shift I was feeling. I had spent quite some time with this little guy by the time I was done. I'd thought about who he was, what he wanted, how he moved, what his voice sounded like. I got to know him. I decided he was Beraol, Warden of the Library. He was a powerful guardian made by a lich to protect their most precious manuscripts. And when I eventually place him on the table, I just know I'm gonna be unreasonably invested in his description. The way the light reflects on his armor, the way the library is kind of covered in this weird, almost organic and glowing kind of magical wax from the warden just walking in it for centuries, the way his voice is a mix of a deep mechanical growl and smoky whistle. All of this I came up while making it. And I'm pretty sure this will have an impact on the players too. They will see straight away that I'm having more fun than usual. By the way, don't worry, they don't watch this stuff, they see enough of me already. My point is that I think we underestimate how much of what players feel at the table is actually just a reflection of how much the DM cares about what they're showing them. If you really care, people just notice. It shows in your pacing, descriptions, the way you interact with the players, or even in how you manage the music if you're into that. Beraol won't make me a better narrator, but he already made me care more, which makes me better at everything. I keep coming back to the word play. I think my biggest problem as a DM was that I kind of forgot to play at some point. I'm not saying DMs should stop prepping or that they should stop taking the game seriously, but I think we do need something that's only ours. Otherwise, we risk losing our initial passion for it. You need this hobby to stay your hobby and to never get tricked into thinking that you're just there for the players. And for me, it turns out that something might be this: browsing models, getting excited printing them, and having my brain automatically attach weight to them. I know not everyone is going to want to get into minis, and that's 100% okay. I'm not saying they're a magical solution for everyone, but the principle is the same even if the activity is different. You need to find a way to develop a relationship with your world that isn't about checking a box. Maybe for you it's gonna be about drawing maps by hand, even though you have a digital tool that's faster. Or maybe you get there by actually writing this lore novel that no player will ever read, you know? What matters is that you get to that place where you feel the absence of obligation and just hang out in your world because it's a cool place you built and like. If you already have one of those ways to engage with the game or with your world, please drop them in the comments. I love reading those, and I try to answer as many as I can. And if you want to support this channel and help me make cool stuff for you guys, you can support me on Patreon. I will leave a link in the description. And maybe you already have that thing that's just for you, but sometimes you still feel like the DM's job is too big. In that case, I think you should watch this video next to remember that actually, no, it's not.